What's up, everybody? Welcome into another game day update. I'm Kelcey, and joining me from New Orleans is the OG Will Guillory. You ready for tonight?
I am. It's always fun when the Grizz come to town. Unfortunately, you won't be making the trip, but we'll figure it out when we go to Memphis. But yeah, it's always fun when these two teams play together, especially with the way Memphis is playing this year. Man, it's like a dunk contest every time them dudes step on the court.
Oh, yeah, no, highlights on highlights. And I think one of the most exciting things about playing the Pelicans now is that we get to see Mr. Jonas Valanciunas. But we'll get into that because he is such a loved former Grizzlies player. But let's set the scene first. The Grizzlies and the Pelicans will tip off tonight at 7 o'clock on Bally Sports Southeast. Ja Morant right now is questionable. Zion, of course, out. Kira Lewis Jr. out. Larry Nance Jr. out. Nothing super surprising other than maybe Ja being questionable. We'll know whether he's in or out closer to tip. The Pelicans blew out the Raptors last night by 30. And I want to talk about that as well because there were some good things, I guess, and some bad things. Like Brandon Ingram almost had a triple-double. And the Pelicans have added CJ McCollum, who is like this known Grizzlies killer. So not only the Pelicans, I feel like, are that one team that is just like a thorn in the Grizzlies. And then CJ McCollum is also one of those players. So now it's like a double whammy. So let's talk about CJ McCollum. What do you like about him so far with the Pelicans?
Yeah, I'm new to the CJ McCollum world, so I had no idea he was a Grizzlies killer. I know the Pels and the Grizzlies have their little history since the Zion draft day, and the Pelicans have kind of roasted them ever since that day. Now that I said that, they'll probably win by 30 tonight. But yeah, I mean, CJ, he's a game changer. It's something completely different this team hasn't had. I wrote since Drew Holiday left, and I think he's even more talented offensively and than Drew was during his Pelicans days. I mean, the guy's just a walking bucket. He can score every level of the court. He can score with the ball, without the ball. I think he's a great fit next to BI. I think those first two games, the Pels ended up losing by double digits, just trying to figure out how to get CJ in the mix, where he fits. And I think in that Toronto game, you really saw him playing the style they really envisioned him with this Pels group. I wrote last night, when he was in Portland, they were basically last in assists every single season because it was all Dame and CJ all the time. And with the Pels, Willie Green is big on 0.5 mentality, getting off the ball, getting everybody in the mix. And last night they ended up with 36 assists. BI almost had a triple-double in 3 quarters. CJ scored 23 points on 13 shots. So I think they want to see CJ change his game a little bit here in New Orleans, but ultimately he's here to do what he does, and that's put points on the board. And he's done that in a major way, especially his last 2 games. And they're really excited to have him around and just have his leadership with this young group.
And now you talk a lot about his offense. I'm going to question you, though, on the opposite end, because they're playing the Grizzlies tonight. He's going to have a matchup of a younger player who will be able to score. And that'll either be a Desmond Bane, a Zaire Williams. Like, it's going to be someone who is younger. And I hate saying this, probably more athletic, just because the Grizzlies play so fast paced and so springy and like highlight really, like we were talking about. On the defensive end, how do you think he matches up tonight against the Grizzlies? We know that he can score.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the big question when they made the CJ deal was when you take out Josh Hart and you put CJ and you basically trade defense for offense, right? Mm-hmm. And I think they are kind of going all in on this offensive identity, being able to score, especially once Z comes back. It's going to be tough for anybody to stop Z, BI, and CJ. But the problem is when you're playing in the West, you got great guards all over the place. And Memphis is a perfect example of that. Even if Ja doesn't play, they've got Desmond Bane. They got so many guys over there who can get buckets. So I think that's going to be the big test for this Pelicans team moving forward, how they defend people. And I think that's the first thing Willie Green pointed out last night, that they held Toronto to 30% from the field. Van Vliet had a pretty quiet night for his standards. So I think they want to keep pushing that button on the defensive end. I think it starts especially with those 2 main guys, CJ and BI. And I think BI in particular has really taken more of a defensive mindset this year. Last year, him and Z got a lot of, flack for the way they played defense. The Pels was so bad defensively. And frankly, it started with those 2 guys just not playing with the amount of effort they needed to on a nightly basis. So I think BI has really tried to change that this season. It's going to be a big test again for him tonight. But yeah, you're exactly right. They got to defend against this Grizzly squad, and you got to keep them out of transition because you don't want to be on their and one mixtape. And when those guys get the yapping and throwing alley oops, they don't want to see that in the SKC tonight. So you got to play some defense and try to keep this as close as possible.
Well, that's the thing. This is the number 6 pace team in the Grizzlies going against the number 22. So like almost bottom of the league, or at least, bottom quarter of the league with the Pelicans. And that's exactly right. Once the Grizzlies kind of get going and they get that head of steam and they get like having fun and making those highlight reels, it's tough for teams, at least morally, to like come back. We saw the Hornets do it. The Hornets made a big comeback. They didn't end up overcoming the lead, but it is possible. And I want to get into my favorite matchup of tonight. And now usually in these matchups, I love guards because I see myself out there and I'm like, ooh, Desmond Bane. But my favorite matchup for tonight is Jonas Valanciunas, because we love JV and we always will, versus Steven freaking Adams. How fun, how physical. What is this matchup going to look like?
Man, the big fellas, this is going to be some old school basketball. Whenever those two guys run into each other, a whole lot of physicality. Somebody's going to get smacked in the face. I feel like I said that last time we did the pod. I feel like somebody's going to get hit in the face. Some people are going to be hitting the floor, or the refs are going to have a hard time figuring out when to call fouls. Because it's not like those guys aren't just physical. They love it. They enjoy the physicality of the game. That's something I really learned about JV, is that dude just loves getting in the mix. He loves pushing people around. That's his favorite part of the game, I think, especially maybe now hitting 3-pointers is his favorite part of the game. I don't know, because he's like Dirk Valanciunas now with the Pelicans. But yeah, those two guys are going to be going at it for sure. And I think being able to keep prevent JV from forcing double teams, I think, is always big when teams play the Pels, because he's such a threat down there, especially against smaller teams. If you force those doubles, then it creates open opportunities for everybody else. And now that you got CJ out there, I think teams are going to be even more hesitant to double JV. So having a guy like Steven Adams down there who can control him, I think that's going to be a really important matchup, and just keeping the Grizz off the boards. I learned it last year watching Steven Adams. That guy eats up the offensive rebounds. We know Jaren Jackson does the same thing. So I think that's going to be a big test for the Pels tonight as well, keeping the Grizz off the offensive glass and preventing those second chance opportunities.
Okay, that's a really good point. Here's my last question for you, and we can go quick on this one. When Josh Hart and Nickeil Alexander-Walker left the Pelicans, it did leave somewhat of a hole in that second unit, that bench unit. And that is a sector where the Grizzlies have been finding a lot of success with Brandon Clark, with D'Anthony Melton, with Tyus Jones. They've been putting up a lot of bench production, whether that be points, rebounds, assists, all of the above. Who steps up in that second unit now for the Pelicans, now that those two guys have left that hole in the roster?
I mean, there's no question in my mind. It's got to be my man, Jose Alvarado. I think one of the biggest surprises on this team, a guy on a 2-way contract. He beat out Tomas Satoransky, a guy who started for multiple playoff teams in this league. Jose, I tell you, he didn't even think he was going to be in the NBA, and now he's a backup point guard. He's getting Bleacher Report posts about his mic'd up game the other night. I mean, he's one of the most beloved guys on this team, just one of the toughest dudes I've ever been around, and he's like 5'10", on a good day. That dude is just so tough-minded. He's not scared of anybody. He plays defense, and now apparently he can shoot. That's what he told D'Angelo Russell. He can shoot.
Apparently.
He said, yeah. He said, D'Lo asked, can he shoot? He was like, yes, I can shoot. Now he's got the yes, I can shoot sweatshirts out. Go cop the merch. Yeah, I mean, the dude is just making an impact for this team because, like I said, he plays defense. He's great at getting into the lane, doing a little Steve Nash thing when he dribbles under the basket and fires cutters and stuff like that. He's been a huge addition for this team, just having an additional ball handler to take some of that pressure off of BI. So it's going to be fun watching him tonight get into the mix with those Grizz guys. And I'm expecting a little bit of chirping. Just make sure those rim mics are hot tonight because there's going to be some talking on the court in this game for sure.
I would say a little more than some. I think there's going to be a lot. Again, guys, it tips off at 7:00 tonight on Bally Sports Southeast. Will, thank you so very much, and good luck.
Sure, why not? Yeah, good luck to you guys as well. It's always fun to come on the pod. I appreciate it.